Disclaimer.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily the views of Tash, Becky, or Be Your Best You podcast.
Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hi! Welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash.
And Becky, the guest edition, and today we're talking to Aeron Lazar.
Aeron's fascinating.
Yeah.
We had an awesome conversation with Aeron. Prepare yourself. We're going big. We're going extraterrestrials. We're going frequency, galactic healing.
Yeah. But he makes it make sense.
Yes.
You need to listen to this.
And it's fascinating, the conversation, particularly I found it so fascinating because he's doing the same work as I'm doing, really helping people heal trauma, release trauma, work through their limiting beliefs, their pain, but he's doing it from a galactic, he channels galactic energy to do it, which quite frankly is a much quicker way than the way I work, which if anybody knows me, they know I like to find the fast way. So I'm like, I need to know more about this so I can start incorporating this into my healing. So yeah, we have a fascinating conversation. It's really interesting to hear how Aeron comes about what he's doing in such a grounded way. Hear his backstory, how he got to where he is now and how he got to doing what he's doing, and how honestly it can really help us move forward in terms of our healing journeys and our shadow work. And I do believe that this is the way the world is gonna start going.
For sure.
So,
like we mentioned the word evolve.
Yes.
So this is all part of it, isn't it? This will help us to evolve if you listen to this episode.
Keep an open mind, guys, because the ET word, the alien word, can sometimes make people go, oh God, no, switching off. But please keep an open mind because Aeron's got a lot to share and it's really valuable. I think it's going to become more and more prominent as we move on. So
definitely
enjoy. Guys.
Hey guys, can we ask you a favour?
Can we ask, if you haven't already, please make sure that you're following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you can get updated with all the latest episodes every week when they come out. You never know, it might just be the thing that you need to hear at that time. Also, don't forget you can watch us on YouTube, so make sure you head over there and subscribe to us there.
And share with all your friends.
Thanks, guys. And today we have on the show Aeron. Aeron, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here with you today.
We're really excited to talk to you. All right, so before we get tucked into all the goodness that's going to come from this episode, could you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do in the world currently?
So my name's Aeron Lazar. I'm a multi-dimensional psychic. So just to try and break that down, just think of dimensions as radio stations that are playing on the dial that surround us all the time. I'm able to tune into different dimensions, and I'm a spiritual teacher, a coach, Akashic realm expert, metaphysical transformational coach. So I work on healing people's pain and trauma with frequency, and again, look to transform their energetic fields and help people to change their reality. So I do a lot of different things, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Oh, that's amazing.
Awesome.
I love how you explain that with the different radio stations as well, because sometimes it's hard to get your head around, isn't it? So, and you can just tune in, can you, to all these? Wow.
Yeah, that's it. So it's basically, I one of the energy in which I kind of show up is I try and break down the metaphysical into stuff which is really logical and easy to understand. Like there's a lot of within the spiritual space, like the creative part of my brain loves it. But Ascension glossary language, if you try and listen to that, it's like you're doing mental gymnastics trying to follow that means. It's like, wow, that sounds linguistically super impressive, but what were they saying kind of thing at the end of
Yeah.
it? So I kind of just approach spiritual teaching and sort of trying to describe consciousness and trying to describe the quantum field and everything within in a very, very down to earth, easy to understand way. Because it's ultimately, if there's no ego when it comes to teaching, you want everybody to be able to understand. So it's 2025. Let's kind of all talk in a way that we can kind of get. So if you think of dimensions, it sounds fancy. I suppose it is, but just think of it in terms of having that analog radio dial that sits there. And even in the room that you're surrounded by right now, there's probably hundreds of radio stations that are playing. And it's just a case of being able to tune your consciousness in to listen to the different radio stations.
Wow.
I love that. And have you been able to do that all your life?
Yeah, so I'm blessed, I guess, because I was born with quite a high spiritual connection on my birth chart, but that was just merely an astrological thing. So that just happened to be the configuration of the energies when I was born. So it's not something that. So I suppose you could say the strength of the connection is just something that I've been born with, and it's something that developed later on in my life because, like, I remember I describe myself as like a weird normal kid, right? So, like, when I think back. I lived a normal childhood, so I had friends. I played sport. I played rugby. I was swimming in rivers and, building dens and doing just all the good stuff that you should do growing up. And I had a good childhood in that respect. But there was a part of me that was just constantly looking at documentaries about UFOs. And I was kind of like, I was walking to my local library, so walking miles and taking out books on ancient aliens and all of this and like interested in the paranormal. And I just kind of, I remember looking out of my bedroom as a kid and almost consciously being able to see the frequency going through the sky, like TV stations and radio stations. I could almost consciously see it. So I've never been fully normal, quote unquote. It's always been there than something that I was born with. And then later on in my life, I was about 20 years old. So I'm 45 now. And I was about 20 years old and my good friend, he became my good friend, more a mentor to begin with. He was a very powerful spiritualist medium and he was running spiritual development classes. So I decided when I was 20 that I went along. So they were being held in sort of town halls on a Sunday. So I'd go every single week and he'd take me through these exercises. And there's a group of us doing it. And effectively, he managed to switch on my third eye. So I have to give him credit for that. But then after that, what happened next? I was petrified because just imagine that your pineal gland's like your spiritual antenna. That's like a satellite dish that sits there connected to this sort of invisible field. I call the quantum field. Just think of it like this enormous field of Wi-Fi. So we're on Wi-Fi now, right? I doubt you've got an Ethernet cable to your device. Well, it's no different. You're just connecting to this massive, monstrous field of Wi-Fi. And so the trouble was when he sort of switched this on, it was like all the TV stations and radio stations were trying to come through at the same time. And that was just mad. And I felt like I was having a mental breakdown. I couldn't control. There was also a lot of darkness that started to come through. So it was almost like my consciousness had gone off, like a beacon, like a lighthouse within the field. And then all of the sort of negative polarity entities and things started to come around. And I was just terrified. I didn't know what to do. I was much younger and, full of testosterone, thought I knew best. And he was like, you need to protect yourself. I was like, I don't need to protect myself. What are you talking about? And then I paid the price, basically. So it got to the point where it just scared me, if I'm honest. I didn't know what to do, how to control it. And I basically almost pushed it all away from me when I was 20 years old. And I went about living a very normal life. It's almost like I'd unplugged from the Matrix, right? If you want to think of it like that. And then it just scared the life out of me. And then I plugged straight back in again. And sort of 2 decades, I just did all the right things that the system told me to do. I believed the mainstream media. I believed the political system. I believed the sort of doctors and medical side of things. I voted. I paid my taxes. I built businesses. I employed staff. I did all the things that I thought I should do. And then later on in my life, it was almost like the universe just brought me abruptly back into alignment. So I went through this in like monstrous amount of pain, which was basically losing sort of 10 years worth of work and a business and investments and all the rest of it. I just literally lost everything, and it all got sort of 10 years worth of work got taken away in the space of a few months. And that was just really traumatic experience. But then from that painful sort of moment that I went through, it's almost like that was the catalyst for my consciousness to sort of bloom into being what's called multidimensional. And all of this stuff started to come back online involuntarily. I couldn't control it. And I was like, but at that time, obviously I was 20 years older, 15 years older, and a little bit more wiser, looked into the protection side of things. And that was absolutely fine. But it was almost like realizing, it was like this big epiphany that I had. I started to connect to different extraterrestrial galactic races. So, these ET races, the Arcturians, the Sirians, the Andromedans, and it goes on and on and on. And then I just had this sort of epiphany dawn on me, which was that I thought, wow, this is just an extension of the same spiritual space that I opened up to 20 years ago, but I just couldn't control it. So it was like this big dawning that it's actually kind of the same spiritual space, but just in a different area of that space. So it was amazing. And then since then, I've worked with extraterrestrials, developed my own spiritual modalities. I've received downloads from the field, so downloads of understanding. And I just try my best now to do what I should have been doing like 25 years. I should have been doing this 25 years ago. But, if I'd went back and spoke to my younger self, tried to talk to my younger self, I would have driven me crazy now, going back to speak to me back then. So I think, it's been one heck of a journey to get to where I am now. But, for the first time since coming into alignment, I've just found true peace. I've, worked through my pain and trauma. I help others now do the same. And it's just a blessing just to have that peace and just to live in happiness, really. So I went on a bit there, so I'm sorry about that.
No, that's beautiful.
Not at all. Thank you
Oh,
so much for sharing. And this is, I personally, I know you do as well, love hearing people's backstories. I know that our audience do as well, because I feel like so many people can resonate with certain parts of what, I know for me, I was that same kid who would look up, I'd go and like in my dressing gown at night when everyone is in bed, I'd go up and lay and look at the stars and just think, why do I feel like I like need to be up there? Like, why do I have this calling up? Like, I was interested in ancient civilizations, Atlantis, like as a kid, and and it's just, I know people, when we tell our stories, I hope that it makes other people go ding ding ding, or I had that too. Yeah. So so many questions. But I guess my first question, we'll see where this takes us. I know you said, straight away when you were a child, you felt drawn to like ancient, alien civilizations. And then when you kind of like had your awakening, or however you want to call it, you were then again drawn to these galactic races. I find it really interesting how lots of people are specifically drawn to, aliens, for lack of a better word, or some people go into the spiritual world and talk to souls, like mediumship. So is that where I suppose my question is, have you always been drawn to the kind of the alien side of things, the UFO kind of things? Is that specifically your connection and your interest?
That's one of the things. I was also interested in the paranormal. Growing up, I used to, the X-Files, anything weird like that. I loved that. That was right up my street when that was released first on Channel 4, back in the UK. That was back in the day where there was only 4 channels back in the UK. Showing the age now. But
We're with you.
no. And I think it's one of those things that I just remember being drawn to it. And I remember when there were reading sessions in school, and everybody was picking up dusty copies of Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe that were all dog-eared and all of this, and just they'd been there for 15 years covered in dust, and the pages were like yellow and stained and stuff, and I had no interest in that side of things. But then I found, like I say, this book on pictures of UFOs and aliens and metallic cigar-shaped objects, and I was like, wow. And I used to look up at the sky. I remember being like 9 years old, maybe 10. It's difficult to remember, but it's around that window. And I remember thinking to myself, like looking up at the stars in the sky, thinking like, we can't be the only civilization out there. Like mathematically, it's impossible. If you think what I can see is a fraction of what's out there, how can we be like the only ones?
Yeah.
So it's like this, I had this dawning realization really, really early on, basically. And then when I when I worked with my then mentor, um, but then became my friend over time, who switched on my third eye for the first time. He was a spiritualist medium, so he was doing tarot cards. He used to speak in spiritualist churches. He used to pass messages on from past ones. So he opened me up to that realm to begin with. But it's that realm that I couldn't control and that scared the life out of me when I was 20. And then it's later on then, after I went through that traumatic period where everything started to come online and the multi-dimensionality came into it then. So that's where I started to connect to the extraterrestrials sort of for the first time. And I remember the first time I connected to the Arcturians. And I can't even, it's indescribable. And another thing I'd like to say to you, it's like sometimes we communicate in Earth language here there is a language designed to communicate an Earth experience. And sometimes to try and describe a consciousness experience, it's hard to find the words sometimes. I do joke and I say, I'm sure at one point there'll be some kind of technology, not in like a weird Neuralinky kind of way, but just where you can project what your consciousness can see on some kind of screen to save having to describe it.
Yeah.
So I kind of remember first time I connected to the Arcturians, and I just felt this connection. And the only way I can describe that connection to you, imagine not seeing family for like a long, long time. You've been separated. And then all of a sudden you were reunited at an airport arrivals lounge and they were waiting. And you walked in there and you can feel it. You can feel it in your stomach and your heart. And I felt that connection. And it's like, for me, I was like, wow, this is my family. I just knew it to be like, And then from there on, that's just where sort of the downloads, the knowledge of understanding started coming. I studied with them for ages. They helped me so much. And I remember there was one sort of being that I was kind of talking to with my consciousness. And this is after probably weeks or months of just connecting in, because I used to I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. And I remember this being saying to me, said, look, you're always welcome. We're really, really happy to be spending time with you. But there are many, many races out there. In order to grow and develop, you probably want to go off of races. And I was just like, oh, am I being kicked out kind of thing? And I was like, oh, okay then. And obviously it was with love. You're always welcome, but maybe go and try and explore this. And that's how it started. And then when I connected to another race, started to sense the different frequency signatures between the races, because they've all got their own frequency signature, just as humans. And you can sense the difference between them. They all feel very, very different. And then, like I say, it just it was a case of going around and meeting as many as possible over a period of time. I made the conscious decision that I wasn't going to open myself up to anything negative. So, as a minimum, I would open myself up to a race that was neutral, polarity, sort of in the middle, but nothing ever negative. So I only ever just wanted to go positive, of the light, out of something that was neutral. So when it comes to the Draco, reptilians, this kind of thing, I just kind of stay away from that kind of thing. But that's just a personal choice, and then I know duality, reality, and there's all polarities everywhere, but it's just a personal choice. But from there, I connected to the Akashic realm for the first time and started to sort of understand that. I then started exploring the Akashic realm and not only discovered the terrestrial Hall of Records. So that's basically all of the for a human, this is all of the Earth past lifetimes that a soul has lived. But there's also another block of records within the realm, which is the Galactic Hall of Records. And that's all of the galactic records that your soul has lived. They're two separate blocks. And where they're actually located here in the physical, the Akashic Records is in the energy of your DNA. So that's held within your physical body. And then at a higher self and soul level, you've got the Galactic Hall of Records. but you can tune in with your consciousness. I train people how to do it, like accessing this kind of thing and spiritual gifts and abilities and normal human functions, because from these advanced civilizations, this used to be taught. If you've got I say to people, if you've got a soul consciousness and a pineal gland, you've got all the equipment required to be able to do it. It's not just the chosen ones and the people with these abilities, and they're here to teach. Everybody can do it. You just need to be shown how to operate the equipment. That's all. So,
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah.
do love that, because I do totally agree with you. We were having this conversation
We
yesterday
were.
on a podcast. And I just, I always like to think everybody can learn how to play a piano. Everyone can learn. Not everyone's going to be Mozart, sure, but everyone can learn to play. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? We see people who are the Mozarts of the psychic
Yeah.
or spiritual world, and we think, oh,
Won't
they're
bother.
never going to be like that. But you can absolutely learn, can't you? And I think, yeah, you just have to. There's so much trust there, though. When you're trying to teach people, say to like connecting with the Akashic records and those kind of things. How do you teach people how to do that? If someone said now listening wanted to do that, how would you go about teaching them?
So in the first instance, I teach people how to elevate their consciousness in the first instance, because you've got to be in what and again, I choose my language very intentionally. I call the quantum field the playground for consciousness. And I call it the playground for consciousness because what do we do in a playground? We go in and have fun. There's no pressure, right? We can just kind of chill out and enjoy it rather than mounting this pressure, and we get better results. So I teach people how to access that for the first time. And then basically what I do in the first instance is I almost take groups up. So it's almost like they piggyback on my energy to get in there. But it's like if you've ever been somewhere before, you can go there again, because it's almost like it's like if I dropped you off in, this is the analogy I give to describe it. If I dropped you off in a city you've never been to, you had no access to the internet, you couldn't ask anybody directions. I dropped you in the center and I asked you to go and find a specific sandwich deli or a specific store or a shop. And I say, okay, off you go and find that. You'd be wandering around like this for a long time trying to find that. Eventually you'd find it if you were diligent, but it might take you a while. The next time I drop you back in that same spot and say, okay, go back to that, you'd go straight there. You'd be there in 5 minutes. So it's the same thing. If you've been somewhere once consciously, you can go there again. So it's almost like just giving people that step up to begin with. And then from that point, they're able to kind of access it. No problem at all.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It does. I just love the way you speak. You just make everything. I love the playground, and you're there, aren't you? Yeah, I just love it.
Yeah. It's like, we can, the thing is, it's like, I could probably come up with, terminology which sounded more ascended and sounded more, and it's kind of, wow, how ascended and how articulate and how impressive does that sound? But it's kind of, if you really want people to get what you're talking about, let's just kind of break it down so it's simple. It doesn't have to sound flowery and fancy. I do love it. I love the creative part of my brain, loves the juice of the kind of language, but we've moved into this spiritual age where there's sort of more and more and more people are waking up to the reality of what reality is really made of, that it's not just the physical. You're more than your physical body. You're actually a soul and consciousness. This lifetime's not your first barbecue. You've had thousands before this. You'll have thousands after this, right? So people are come into this. And I feel like if we can at least make the language a bit more welcoming, so people aren't kind of scared by it and go, what the heck is that? Then it brings people in, I feel, rather than kind of going, I don't really understand that. And, there's a resistance there, really. So, I just think it's 2025. Let's just try to break it down and make it simple, right?
And you're educating people, so people are like, I would come away from you and know exactly what you've taught me something. So often you do listen to people and you're more confused
Yeah.
than you were when you
I
started.
think that's it. I've done my job. If that's the I've done the role that I'm there to do at that particular moment in time. If you've walked away and you've gained something from it, or it's walked away and you felt empowered, like you can do something, then that's what it comes up to. You're not walking away going, oh, okay, what was he saying again? Goodness me. And then that's about in itself, just trying to understand and again, it is difficult because there's a balance in that. Because like I said to you, trying to describe a consciousness experience with earth language is super difficult. physical. And one day, I'm sure, like I say, there's going to be that TV screen, and then people can just watch along and go, that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Or just telepathy. You're like, this, that.
Another thing, we're talking about the Akashic realm, but like within my online community, the Quantum Club, like we call it our Jedi School of Light. So it's a spiritual development school. And, within that, we hold sessions on telepathy and remote viewing. It's a normal human function. And like we've done experiments and tests on there. And it's like literally, okay, what shape do you see? And it's actually what starts to come through invariably when you look at everybody within the group. Invariably, people are correct. It's there's been sort of declassified documents. The governments have done studies on this around the world. The three-letter agency in the States, the AIC. I'm watching my words on here.
Yeah.
But there's declassified documents where they brought sensitive people in, or they brought different people in and ran experiments on things like remote viewing. It's just that what's happened since the ancient advanced civilizations have disappeared, it's almost like this knowledge has been kept back. This was something which was just openly taught. It's just something we can all do, right? But the system and everything else is designed to, and religion as well, is designed to make you think that somehow you are this physical vessel, that God is outside of you up on a cloud somewhere. You've got to worship something outside you. So you've got to apologize for being born broken and for the sins of humankind. All of us are fractals of the same source energy. So therefore, God is within all of us, right? We're all connected to the same bit of energy. And, I think all God is just the frequency potential of unconditional love. It's within every single human being. And I think when we heal our pain and trauma, we really start to get in there, that God-like frequency starts to exude to the world. And that's, all of us have it, right? We're not, it's just this system, and sometimes, and ancestry and karma and things like that, we all walk different paths, and some of those paths are difficult. But actually, when you go to the fundamental of what we are as energetic beings, we're all fractals of the same energetic body. We're all connected. This is the thing.
Yeah. Oh, can't agree more. I can't agree more with you. I'm just trying to. There's so many places that my mind wants to go. I really want to talk about how because I know you said that obviously you do your teaching and you have your spiritual schools, and then you've obviously helping people as well heal their trauma, work with their frequency, etc. So I really, really want to kind of talk about that and how you do that. I'm so interested because that's what I also do, but I'm doing it through the medium of working with the subconscious, etc. But before we go on to that, I don't know why, I'm just feeling called like we have to go back to this subject of the extraterrestrials, because it's funny because Bex and I, we've been on our own journey with that. And we always talk about it outside of the podcast, don't we? And it's been something that we've kind of been tentatively broaching with the podcast. And that's a us thing, because we're like, ooh, are we ready to talk about it? Are our listeners ready to hear about it? Are they going to think we've gone one step too far? Do you know what I mean? But recently we've been really cool to kind of try and bring it in, because it's been such a big topic for us. Say, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 3 years ago, it first kind of came in. Like I said, I've always been interested in the stars. I had the exact same thoughts as you as a 9-8-year-old. I just used to look at the adults and think, you're delusional. How can you think there is nobody else in the universe apart from us? How arrogant are you? And also when I'd learn about ancient Egypt and stuff, I'd think, well, clearly humans didn't do this. It was just like a normal thought for me. I just think definitely humans didn't do this. Somebody else has come in and helped us with this. But anyway, so that aside. So it's always been a part of me. But then, like you, I had my own journey where I pushed it away because I got frightened and all the things. But then it kind of came back into my world, and I would speak to Becky about it, and I was like, no, I'm not sure about this right now. I get it, but it's not for me just yet. And then things happened, didn't it? And all of a sudden I was thrown into this world of extraterrestrials, and I just followed. At this point now, I just follow where my intuition takes me and where I'm led. And I've been on my own journey with that. And it's so funny when you said about how you connected in with the Arcturians. I know the exact feeling you're talking about, because I have that very much with the Lyrans, and I just got very much led to that. It's just that feeling. You described it perfectly, or how I would describe it. Anyway, all that being said, we haven't spoken a lot about it on the podcast, but I'm really keen to bring it more into, it is coming more into mainstream, isn't it? Like, we're definitely having more conversations. There's been stuff like that's been declassified, and then somehow it just gets brushed past, and we're like, hey, they've just literally declassified stuff saying that they've got alien ships and all the stuff, and somehow it's not being made a big deal of. Like, just blows my mind. But I'm really keen to bring it into the mainstream, because I really feel like we need to have these conversations. So one, people don't think that it's crazy, but two, to alleviate fear, because I have a real like knowing that this is going to get more and more, it's going to come more and more in the public eye, and people need to be prepared, and I don't want people to be scared and fearful. So with all that being said, you've had a lot of connections with the galactic kind of dimensions, races. When you're communicating with them and when they talk to you, what are their messages that they are trying to get across to you? What are they teaching you? What are they showing you? What do they want us to know?
Well, I've connected to many different races, and including the Galactic Federation. So that's like a parliament that was set up after the Orion Wars. The Orion Wars were like a conflict that went on for millions of years, and there was a lot of loss. And it was Sirians that actually came up with the concept of everybody coming together to try and just prevent any kind of sort of wars and destruction again. But every single race is different. They've all got their own personality traits as well. So, your listeners might have heard of what are called starseeds, right? So I work with a lot of starseeds, and these are people who answered the call of Earth to come and help with human consciousness ascension, but effectively they've come here from other worlds, right? And I know that there's a train of thought where there's 144,000. My experience, there's way more than that. So there's way more than of people who have come here from elsewhere. And have that deep sort of understanding and that deep knowledge. But, when I talk about the personality traits, when I sort of work with people who are starseeds and I describe, so first of all, I read where they've come from and I start to describe the personality traits of that race. All of a sudden, they start seeing this stuff in themselves. And all of a sudden, they start to wonder, oh my God, that's why I'm like that. And it just gives people this massive, deep understanding. It just simply depends on the race, back to your original question. So the Sirians are all about what I call consciousness technology. So Sirians are beautifully intense. So they have, it's almost like frequency technology upgrades, for want of a better word. So that's what they've provided me with. A lot of energy work and a lot of understanding around the planet, from the Andromedans, for instance, healing, healthcare, DNA, this kind of thing from the Orions, unity, sort of, I would like to say, almost like collectivism from the Arcturians. It just goes on and on and on. Obviously, there's Alpha and Beta Centauri, which is the Alpha Centauri plus the Hadarians, divine masculine, divine feminine within the same system. So it just simply depends on the race. They haven't all got one message. So it's not like they come through and it's like, okay, this is what we want. Sometimes I will channel messages from them. Other times I'll host consciousness immersions where I'll lead groups and we'll all kind of go in and experience experience that. Other times we go there and they teach us. Other times they provide us with downloads of understanding. So it just simply depends on the race, really.
But I guess they all want to help us here on Earth. What do they think of us?
Well, some do. So like I say, I don't connect to any of the negative ones. So I can't really speak for the negative side of things. And I'm sure we've all heard the stuff, if you go back to Sumeria and the Sumerian gods and all of this, and the Anunnaki and the Draco and whatever else. So I'm not sure really what their thoughts are, because I've never connected to them. But certainly the ones that I have connected to as a minimum of a neutral polarity, they are not only encouraging us as humanity, they also wish us well. Within the Galactic Federation, another thing is you will hear a lot of light at the end of these things. So a lot of people say Galactic Federation of Light. I speak to the Council of Light. Everything's of light, but at the end of the day, it's the Galactic it's the Galactic Federation. You know, I think when there are sort of negative polarity races that have representation at the Galactic Federation, because it's all polarities that were there. You know, the vast majority are positive, if neutral. And there is a sense of excitement at the Galactic Federation of what we're going through here on Earth. And I think that what I was shown by the Galactic Federation, that there was a huge push for consciousness ascension back in the 60s and 70s, you know, the hippie movement that kind of spread around the world. And there was this huge push for this collective unconditional love and fifth dimensional consciousness, but it never quite made it because it wasn't supported by the frequency of the planet at the time. It's almost like for the energies to move, the timing has to be correct. So it has to be timely. It just wasn't timely, and it wasn't in sync with the energy of the planet. The energy of the planet, we've moved into this different sort of stage of evolution. The energy of the planet has shifted, and now it supports that ascension. And so what you're finding now is, as human consciousness is being pushed up, it's also being supported by the energy of the planet as well. So it's literally, I mean, it's past the point of no return. It can't be stopped now. So what you're seeing, there's two different versions of reality. So I'll blow your listeners' minds for a second now, right? So there's two versions of reality playing out at the same time. And again, think of them as different radio stations, if you like, right? So it's almost different dimensions. You've got the 3D heavy timeline, which is on Earth. And also on Earth, you've got the 5D timeline. So you've got people living very, very different lives, like almost tuned into completely different realities. Although on the eye, they look the same. So the environment looks the same on both. It's just the frequency is different of the people who are tuned into it. And so, you know, what's happening is you've got, through the means of the internet is, and the screen is like a window between dimensions. So you can be on the 5D timeline, operating with unconditional love, but you can still be looking through the means of your screen at what's going on within 3D. So there's a lot of heaviness which is going on within that 3D timeline. But what's happening is, as people then wake up and they see through the system, and it's like, whoa, and it's almost like the veil lifts. It's like the spell lifts, right? And people can actually see things for how they are. That's when that transition takes place. And there's more and more and more people that are coming across. And it's just a process. It's a bit messy. You know, it's like making a cake. You know, there's just flour and eggs and stuff going everywhere, and it's a bit messy at the minute. But at the end of it, it's just something beautiful. It's what's called the new earth. It's a brand new way of living. The old systems have completely fallen away, and it's just a brand new environment. So we're just on that ride at the moment, and you know, it's the destination is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
It's very
thank
exciting,
you.
isn't it? It's such a tumultuous time, and it does feel really heavy, but at the same time I can't help but think, oh, it's all for good. It's just the breaking down of the old, isn't it, to make way for the new. And but that's one of the reasons why we really wanted to do this podcast, was because, you know, we were thinking, at least because our awareness, obviously we can say we've unplugged from the matrix, had an awakening, whatever you want to say to it, however you want to describe it, it makes things make sense, doesn't it? And I always look and I think the world, it looks crazy, but we at least have some kind of vocabulary, some understanding to make sense of why. But with people who are kind of living in this 3D world that don't have that understanding, it just must be so terrifying, so unsettling, and I only think it's going to get worse in that respect as we move forward. And so we're like trying to bring in all of these concepts, all of this knowledge, and lay it out here in a kind of grounded way to say, here you go, this is why life feels like it's going to shit right now, and why your emotions are all over the place, and stuff from, you know, your past is coming up, and why is everything going wrong. And it's like, when you can understand this is why, and you can like almost embrace it because there's something so much better on the other side, it's going to hopefully give people that kind of, you know, momentum to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you make a really interesting point, because the thing is, once people go through that awareness awakening, it's almost like you can start to see the bird's eye picture of what's actually going on, and it all then makes sense. the scariest thing is when there's confusion and you don't know what the heck is going on, because you've got all of this random stuff going on. There's just this confusion. Can't make sense of it, and it's just frightening, scary. But when you actually see what's connected to what and why they are doing what they're doing, it all makes sense. And it's like, okay. And when you've got clarity over what's going on, then there's no fear. When you can understand and you can see something, it's less scary, really, in its entirety. And then, obviously, what then happens is that once people come out of the system, you've then got to clear up all of this legacy pain and trauma that's been left within the physical body, in order to allow people to sort of raise their vibration, if you want to look at it like that, but actually start to live happy, fulfilled lives, because, it's the system is tough. It really, really is. And, I speak from my own experience where I had to process so much anger. Like when I look back at when I was doing the shadow work, and it's all stuff right back to childhood, dysfunctional relationship with my father, trying to do the right thing, people taking advantage of that, people taking kindness for weakness, stealing from me, and all of this kind of stuff through my life. But all of the stuff that you go through leaves a toll. It all kind of leaves this legacy sort of pain and trauma that your physical body holds on to, that we have to process. And that's why when you got people full of pain and trauma, that's why there's a lot of people running around triggered all the time, because it's just unhealed pain and trauma in the body, right? And, you were mentioning that, you work with the subconscious, etc. I do it with galactic frequency. That's a modality that the Arcturians taught me how to do. And, but ultimately, whether it's the more traditional way of doing it or whether we do it with frequency, the most important thing is that people are healed at the end of it. That's the prize and the goal, isn't it? So I'm really pleased to hear that you're doing such great work like that. It's awesome. And, keep up the great work. Seriously.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And it's interesting that you said that as well,
Yeah.
because the
We said
traditional
the same.
thing,
Yeah.
because I kind of came into this world. This is how I came into it through hypnosis and through hypnotherapy. But very quickly I realized, because I was kind of going through this awakening, and at the same time I was like, this doesn't quite cut it for me. This is to put it into kind of like terms. I was like, this is a bit too 3D. I need more. I need more energy. I need to take. That's why I trained as like a past life regressionist as well, because I could then take it a bit more on the spiritual aspect. But now what I'm really feeling called to do is bring in more of an energetic, like work more with energy, and work on. I don't know where I'm going to go yet, but I'm open, and I'm kind of learning and following the breadcrumbs, so to speak, to help me do that, which I'm definitely doing. But I'm so fascinated, and it's led on really nicely. I am fascinated to hear how you do this work with the galactic frequencies.
So any energy that you effectively channel or pull in is pulled in from a extraterrestrial collective consciousness group. Okay, so but it's like with certain frequency, you need to. It's like think of it like a store or a shop or a supplier. You need to know where the best supplier to get the different frequencies are. So let's say when it comes to, we're talking about healing frequency, there's 3 types that I use. And so, a really robust healing galactic frequency is Arcturian frequency. That's kind of a middle of a road. It's very robust. It does the job. You've got Sirian frequency, which is very, very calm. And that's a bit more gentle when it comes to the release. And then you've got Pleiadian frequency, which is just like an energetic jet wash flush. And it's just super intense. Whichever one that you would apply just simply depends on your discernment of the person that you're working with, because it depends what they've been through. I've worked with probably over 1,000 people, and I've spoken to these people in individual sessions. And, when there's a lot of trust there, people start to express the things that they've gone. And some of the stuff that people go through is awful, or have been through is awful. So you've got to gauge, or you've got to use your discernment as to what the best frequency to use is. So if you've got somebody who's been really, really traumatized, giving them Pleiadian frequency is going to be too much. They probably feel like they're having a breakdown. They need something a bit more gentle. And yes, it takes a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be a smoother process for people. Most people are okay with Arcturian frequency, and that's probably the most predominant frequency that I use on the programs within the membership of the Quantum Club. There's, recordings of these transmissions. And what it does basically with consent, because again, you've got to appreciate the universal law of free will. So if you're implying any frequency on anybody, you need the consent direct of the person that you're working with, because there's karmic consequences otherwise. And I always believe on staying on the right side of the karmic line. So the energy in which I teach, I'm always like, and I teach people how to do this as well, how to channel this energy. So I say to people, look, if you're working with a client or whatever, always get their permission, like without question. Don't assume implied consent. Once you've had the permission of that person, then basically what it is connecting to the extraterrestrial race, plugging into their network. Okay, so just think of it like plugging into their Wi-Fi network. If you want to think of it like that, you've got the password, you can log in whenever you want to. Go there, and then what you would do is you would start to program the energy. So you then start to talk about the frequency that you're going to pull, and basically your intention effectively programs it. Then what you would do is when your intuition just senses that programming is done, you would then, for want of a better word, I'm trying to describe this with English, but a consciousness experience, but you effectively pull that energy towards you. And it's almost like you become a conduit for that energy. So it comes down, imagine you like a big hose pipe, it comes through and you send it. You send it with gusto, you send it with force. And what you would then do, that comes down, codes of bitter medicine come down through the crown and they cascade down through the body. And what happens is that frequency, as it's coming into the body, finds its way to where it needs to go. And what then happens is either immediately in the session or a day afterwards or 2 days afterwards or maybe up to 10 days afterwards, what happens is, depending on what's in a person's field, that starts to stir up all of this pain frequency that's locked in the tissue. And what happens is starts to stir up, and boom, it comes up. And it stimulates what I call the emotional purge. So where you've got traditional ways of doing things, so there's, again, hypnotherapy, there's, you've got the somatic stuff, which is the tapping and all the rest of it, and the breath work. You've then got the sort of traditional process, which is going back to that situation, pulling up the situation. The person who's hurt you is there. They're not there to speak. You get everything off your chest that you never got to say in the moment, because part of healing's being heard. Go back then, heal your younger self in that moment. When that's complete, you move on to the next situation and the next situation and the next situation. That can take a period of time. With the Galactic way of doing it, it condenses the timeline. So you can heal somebody, depending on what they've been through, in weeks or months, depending if on how you're going to work, and that's complete. But the reality is that because the timescales are shorter, then obviously the process is a bit more intense on people. And so I've had it where people immediately start wailing in the middle of the sessions. It's just boom, coming up out of their chest like this. I've had it where I'm working with people and I've got, say I'm supporting them and I've got them on Voxer or one of the support apps. They're coming through and it hits them like a ton of bricks. 3 days later, they don't feel like they can get out of bed, and all this stuff from the past is coming up. They can feel it leaving their chest. And we just work through. And, by the end of it, they're like shiny new pins energetically. And they're just like different people, because they are different people. They're the same, but energetically different in how they show up. Their energy feels different. You can see a glow around them. They're smiling. They're happy for the first time. They're not triggered anymore. It's just a blessing to be able to do it. But to sort of try and sum it up, all of the different modalities that do it are kind of working towards the same thing. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. I just think this sort of doing this with galactic frequency, that's something that was given to me back in 2021, again, by the Arcturians. And when I did, and by the way, this stuff I was using on myself. So I was kind of, downloading this frequency and I was healing. I was going through this sort of process back then. So all the stuff that I've used is stuff that have been tested on me and has been tested on my wife as well. So we've got personal experience with it.
Yeah.
And when I was going through this and I realized it was galactic energy, I was like, this is just amazing. I need to find other people out there who are doing this because this is like sensational. And I went out there and I searched and I searched and I searched and I couldn't find a single person who was doing it. I was like, wow, okay, this must be like a new thing. And I just think that it's just an example of us evolving as a species. So to say that as a species, all of our spiritual skills and abilities fit into this little box and that's going to be it forever, I don't think so. I think that there's going to be new skills, new abilities, new modalities that come online all the time. At some point in the future, I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but there will be people controlling physical matter with their consciousness and levitating things, moving things. I just think it's an evolution. And, it's just, I'm just very fortunate that I was able to use that on myself and I'm able to help people with it now. But it is, it's a pretty phenomenal experience. Once people go through that, they're like, wow, it's incredible. And ultimately, the shadow work, it's going back to the most uncomfortable stuff that's ever hurt you. So it's never pleasant, is it? But,
No.
It was a method to be able to kind of maybe shorten the timescale that people go through that, then that's quite effective for people, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's necessary. I just get this, I have had it for a while, this message all the time of like, what I do is amazing. And the results that I've had with all the hundreds of people I've worked with are incredible. But I've just got this like niggle where I'm like, it doesn't have to take this long. It doesn't have to be this hard. There's something quicker. It's the time now is we don't need to do that anymore. And like hearing you talking about this, I'm like, this is what I'm trying to bring through. But again, I just feel it's going to be something new again, something someone hasn't done yet. And that's where I kind of had this connection to, interestingly, as well, like the extraterrestrials. That's why I feel like it's going to come from. That's why I'm feeling connected to them and that I have to connect with that. But I just haven't quite worked it out yet. This is coming, but it's not there yet. But I just find it fascinating to hear that, this is what you're doing and you can. And also, like you said, all these modalities, like there's loads and they're all amazing. And I think they're all necessary because we're all at different levels. And if you try to do what you do with someone who barely recognizes hypnotherapy as being something that's going to help, it's just not going to work, is it? You're not going to work for that person. You're not right for that person. Whereas somebody who does, some talking therapy is going to be right for that. I'm going to be right for someone different maybe than you. I think we're all where we are for a reason and all the modalities are necessary. But I do agree with you. I think we're evolving and we don't have to, we're so programmed for life to be a struggle and things have to be hard. And I don't think that it does anymore, but it's just there has to be people like you who go forward and say, take a leap of faith and be okay with it not being like this physical kind of tangible healing modalities that we're accepting work. And we need more and more people to do that. But a question I had, when you said that you kind of put these frequencies through and it kind of disrupts the energy field and brings everything up, and they have this emotional purge. So as a client, from the client's perspective, when they have this emotional purge, are they just experiencing that as all these kind of feelings are coming up, memories are coming up to the surface to be released? Or are there things that are happening all of a sudden in their life? I know when with the work that I do, we'll be working on something and then all of a sudden a scenario will come up in work that makes them want to finally quit their job or, do that. It's manifested in their external reality. How does that emotional purge, how is that experienced by your client? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah. So it's not stimulated by different circumstances manifesting in their life. It just starts coming up out of their body. And obviously, basically what the emotions of what's coming through are tied to the memories and everything else. And so they kind of realize what it is that they're purging. And it's usually the most intense layers start to come up first. So the stuff that's hurt the most starts to come up first. And then it just starts working through and it comes up. And, they might be feeling grotty for 2-3 days. but it's almost like it comes in waves, like it lifts. Like the first bit will lift, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my God, I'm feeling really, really good," and then bang, it hits them again, and more.
Mm.
And there's not just one. Sometimes somebody will be there'll be multiple transmissions of this frequency, but you can't. I wouldn't say do too much of it. So a week to 10 days between transmissions of it, I would say, just to give yourself a chance to integrate what's coming up. But again, it's like it's like the people that we work with. There's no intellectual property when it comes to spirituality. So everybody that I work with, I actively say, the people that I teach to do it, look, take this forward and start working with people. Take this forward and help people. It's like, this is how we evolve as a species, and this is how these new things spread out there. And ultimately, this is how
Yeah.
more and more people get helped, right? And I know that there's people out there now that are doing this. It's kind of like I say, but it's it's a relatively new thing when you think about
Mm.
overall. Like I say, this dropped in for me, and I did this on myself in the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And it's been since then that I've been sort of sharing this with people. So it's relatively new, but the effects are amazing. We've got program once a year that we basically transform somebody's energetic signature. It's called Transcended Dimensions, a 6-month program we run once a year. That's something I love dearly. And that process is something that we take people through, and that's based on the process that we went through personally. So, we basically, once we transformed our own energy, we were like, okay, surely we can create a process that helps people to go through the same. And so we just wrote down all the stuff that we did and documented it. And the beautiful thing is the reason that, when you start working through things like pain and trauma, why people's lives change, then it transforms lives. And the main reason for that is all of us have got this energetic field that sits around us, right? I call it the egg, right? Because it looks like a big egg, right? That sits around us in the same shape. And effectively, everything within our energetic field adds up to this overall frequency signature that we give off. Think of it like a fingerprint to the universe. Now, your physical fingerprint, you can't change, but your energetic fingerprint, you can. This is the beauty of it. So once you do this work, once you heal the pain and trauma, once you release all of the distorted subconscious beliefs, so all of the limiting beliefs around self-worthiness, all of this kind of stuff that sits in, the belief around, money being a scarce resource, and all of this kind of legacy programming from the Matrix, once you let all of this go, then what happens is you transform your energetic signature. And the universe, this is how reality works, right? The universe will send you physical reality based on the program and instructions that you send it. So you are directly telling the universe what reality to provide you. So therefore, if you can change the program and instructions, you change the reality. And you don't even need to try and do it. The only thing you need to do is to try and change who you are. So, you would have heard the saying that the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you who you are. Well, who you are is your energy signature. So if you can change that, you can change the fabric of your very being, your reality begins to change. And it's almost like things just start to drop in like this effortlessly. And so, I found myself living here in Costa Rica, for instance. I was living in Australia in the middle of COVID in 2021, and all of a sudden we were doing we were doing the work to shift our frequency and heal the pain and trauma and everything else. All of a sudden, Costa Rica just manifests like this. And it wasn't like I was transported from Australia, but it all of a sudden just became this viable thing. Never was on my horizon to do that before. And we've been unbelievably happy here ever since. So I just think that your reality shifts super quickly. But if people watching this can take something away from this, it's just that healing pain and trauma is a massive part of changing your energetic signature. And once you change that energetic signature, your life is just going to transform. It's amazing. So yeah, it's interesting. I love this subject, and it's just something which just fascinates me. But seeing the results in people's lives is just so rewarding, for when it's fine talking about something, but the proof of the pudding's in the eating. Like, where are the results kind of dropping in? And when you start to see the results drop into people's lives, it's amazing. So it's just more and more confirmation. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I could listen to you all day, literally.
Amazing, isn't it?
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Before we leave, I know you just said if I could just let if I can let the audience know one thing. But before we go,
Mm.
is there, a message after our whole conversation here, or, from the work that you do and the things that you see on a daily basis, what would you like to leave the audience with today?
Oh, what a lovely question that is. Let me
Take
think.
your time.
That you actually create and anybody watching this, you are the creator of your own reality. You're not a passenger, and life and your experience isn't just happening to you. You create it energetically. And if you can start to feel empowered to take ownership of that, you can completely and utterly transform your life. But it always starts with us, goes out to the universe, and it always then ends with us, with our experience. So if you can start to feel empowered to take back control, you can create whatever life it is that you want to do, and find true happiness, which at the end of the day is the most important thing.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's been, I've loved this conversation,
Me
honestly, and
too.
I could talk
This
to
is
you
going to
about...
just keep going in my head for days now. I love it.
Aaron, if people wanted to find you, where's the best place to look you up?
You can look me up on social, so Instagram, TikTok. You can find me on there, aeronlazar.com. There's also the architectsofdestiny.com, and that contains the membership, the Quantum Club, the program Transcendent Dimensions, and stuff that I do with my wife as well. So my wife is what I call, we could have spoken about that actually, but she's what's called a galactic linguist. So she channels about 20 odd different light languages, so extraterrestrial languages, which are energetic transmission. She activates those in other people as well. So people who've never sort of spoken that before are activated by what she does. And there's a lot of stuff that we do there together. But then if people are interested in what I do, it's aeronlazar.com. And again, like I say, please go and take a look for further information and see if there's anything that resonates.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll put all your details in the show notes as well. But that is it for this week.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed it, guys, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.